Joining me is the Australian's national editor, Dennis Shanahan. Dennis, welcome to the show. As our reporter just mentioned, it's budget eve and the cost of living is on the top of the agenda. What do we know so far from the government?
Well, the cost of living has certainly been on the agenda since before the election. What the government is trying to do is fulfil a lot of the promises it made and has made over the last 12 months and trying to provide assistance to combat higher inflation, higher food prices and, of course, higher energy prices. And that $14 billion plus package will largely be directed at those on lower incomes, fixed incomes and benefits, so that it will be going to, as Jim Chalmers says, the most vulnerable Australians, and that they are the ones that they are giving the priority to at the moment. That's where the money will go, and that has been the theme of the last few days of battling cost of living and helping those on lower incomes.
So Treasurer Jim Chalmers has come out today saying that more than $17 billion will be diverted in order to fund a suite of what Labor regards as higher priority measures. Where are they going to find those savings?
Well, essentially, the term is reprioritised or redirected rather than just saying cuts. Because that's basically what's happening. The Labor Party has decided that it's taking away priorities that were coalition priorities, particularly in regional areas, but also as what Kate Gallagher describes as the rorts and wastes, payments on consultants and so forth. And they're taking that money from coalition projects and applying it to Labor Party priority projects. So it's a little bit of a shuffle. It's not really, oh, here we've cut $17 billion out of spending and we're not going to re-spend it. They are in fact re-spending it. So it is a question of redirection, and much of that, or a large part of that, will actually go into defence priorities.
I think it's funny that when somebody else does it, it's a cut, but when Labor does it, it's just a policy and reprioritisation of direction. This
just a redirection, that's all.
Do we know how much... That's right. Do we know how much the government will give to households by way of help? And will all households be eligible for this assistance?
Well, not all households will be eligible, and the assistance is going to vary from state to state, territory to territory, because part of the payment is coming from the state governments. How they will provide rebates on energy prices will in part be calculated from a different state basis. So overall, or up to $500 for some families in some states will be the benefit, the reduction, the rebate, designed to lower energy bills, but it is going to vary a great deal from family to family and state to state, maximum about $500.
The government's also announced today, Dennis, that $1.9 billion will be given to single-parent families, more than $175 a fortnight extra. What's that going to mean in the lives of the people who receive it?
Well, it'll mean $175 a fortnight for a start, but it also raises the way that the money will be given is by raising the age of a child for a single parent where they previously, and the Gillard government actually did this as well, they cut off the payment for a single parent, predominantly women, overwhelmingly single mothers, will be the beneficiaries of this payment, but they've raised it from the age of 8 to the age of 14, and so that they will continue to get assistance as a single parent until the child turns 14. At the moment, it cuts out at 8 and they're expected to try and go back to work. So it's a change over the years, And obviously it is, as the Prime Minister himself described it, a personal achievement for him, having come from a single family. And Katie Gallagher also mentioned at a press conference that she'd actually been on this program when she had an 8-year-old. So I think a lot of personal feeling within this particular measure for single mothers.
Yeah, I can see the genuineness of that compassion, but there's something strange about, as a nation, putting over $15 billion into trying to get people to put children under 5 into childcare, while at the same time spending an awful lot on welfare payments to keep single parents at home up to the age of 14. Moving on though, in the past, governments have always tried to have at least one surprise in the budget, something that they haven't already announced or already leaked to the press. Do you think the government has done that this time, or have all of their plans already been revealed? Are we going to get any extra surprises on the day?
Well, if they do, it'll be a surprise, but much of the budget, all the good news has actually come out. We know that there will be a surplus. There'll be a surplus for 1, possibly 2 years. So that big figure, that big advantage of being able to say, bringing home the bacon and so forth, has basically gone as well. I think there is a danger for the government that it is given out so much of the big spending, so much of the good news for all sorts of people, that the danger will be that on budget night tomorrow night, as all the analysts start to look at it, they will look at the initial surplus, which is largely, or in large part, a result of the increase in resources prices. It's also increased in a fall in unemployment and income tax and tourism. So there's been a big rise in revenue. It's up 40% on the October figures. And so we know there will be a surplus, but we also know that that surplus is going to be very short-lived. And Jim Chalmers himself has been talking about the danger of the medium term, the threat of global recession, the threat of global threats to the economy. Now, the danger here for Labor is that tomorrow night the analysts will say, oh, okay, that's a surplus, good, give them a tick for that. But what about the growing danger of another decade of deficits, so that you get the idea that, or you could get the idea from the budget, that it is a hollow budget and a hollow achievement. I think this is a danger for the government. Maybe they do have another big surprise in there, but then they run the risk of once again being accused of feeding inflation by spending too much. So we'll see how it goes. Perhaps Jim Chalmers does want us to concentrate on those medium out years where things are going to be tougher, and he's maybe thinking of the next budget.
There's another by-election test ahead for both Anthony Albanese and Peter Dutton, now that former Minister Stuart Robert has confirmed he will resign from politics in the coming weeks. That'll trigger a by-election in the seat of Fadden in Queensland. Candidates are coming out of the woodwork there. What's the latest for us?
Oh, well, I think we've got to remember Stuart Robert hasn't actually resigned yet. So there's still going to be a period of a bit of game playing as people position and jockey, and some names are coming forward as already. And maybe, although I'm a guest here, Amanda, I could ask you if you're going to be a candidate. Your name is being raised, and so I'll just turn the tables. You know, are we going to see Amanda as a candidate?
Oh, look, it's a little bit cheeky, but I'm a very happy Sky News host, and I'm sure the locals will have plenty of good local people to choose from.
Well answered.
I'll give you a little bit of latitude there. Finally, a day of turmoil for the New South Wales Nationals, with Paul Toole being ousted as party leader after only surviving a leadership spill a month ago. It's all over the drama of fellow National Ben Franklin and him being offered a plum parliamentary job. Paul Toole's been on the attack over the job offer, threatening to boot Franklin out of the party and then even refer the deal to the state's anti-corruption watchdog if he accepted the position. Golly, Ben Franklin today said he actually told Paul O'Toole about the offer weeks ago, and Toole apparently seemed happy for Franklin to take the job. Dennis, Dougal Saunders is the new leader. He's won 10 votes to 5, but really, I mean, when Paul Toole won the leadership with just 1 vote, this next step was always inevitable. What's going on here?
Oh, well, it's one of those things that, as you say, in any political contest, somebody who wins by 1 vote is only a heartbeat away from losing the next vote. And he made the mistake of bad-mouthing his own numbers man, who, you know, was going for a plum job. He's in opposition. He was going to become President of the Upper House in New South Wales, get the extra kudos and pay. And he didn't like the way he was being treated, didn't like the way that he'd actually approached the leader, so he said. And what we have here is the situation that we saw in the Senate when Senator Mal Colston, Labor, gave up his Labor caucus membership to become the Deputy Leader of the Senate, Deputy President of the Senate, and Independent Speaker Peter Slipper, the former Liberal MP who became Speaker. In both situations, the same as New South Wales, where it effectively helped the government of the day, which was in a minority or near minority. I don't think it's sustainable to take that job and remain in the party, but it was also equally clearly unsustainable to try and badmouth your own numbers man publicly while you only had a majority of 1 as leader.